Welcome. Today's video is on the pros and the cons of living in Orem, Utah. So if that's what you want to know, you thinking about making that move there, you want to know some of the good things and the bad things of actually living in Orem, Utah, spending time in Orem, Utah, well, that's what I'm going to cover today. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Greg Spackman. I'm with the Living in Salt Lake City channel. So if you want to learn everything about what it's like to live here, eat here, sleep here, play here, then click the subscribe button and the little bell to be notified every time I do new videos. I've been getting a ton of people that are just like you that are reaching out to me about making that move here to Orem, Utah, or the greater Salt Lake City area, and I absolutely love it. So if that's you, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. I've got your back if you're moving here. So con number one of living in Orem, Utah would be the drivers and spending what time I spent there showing homes to people, just driving around, shopping there, visiting my daughter who went to UVU there. All of that, I will tell you that Orem has some of the worst drivers in all of the Salt Lake City area. I don't know if they just congregate there or they were bred there, but they have some of the worst drivers that you're going to run into. And you just need to know that if you're moving there or spending time in Orem, that you actually drive more defensively than you would in, say, some of the other cities up north or just around it. But that's con number one, is the bad drivers. And if you talk to people, you're going to find that most of the people would agree with that. If you disagree, then comment below and let me know what your thoughts are. Pro number one is one of my favorite things about living in Orem, Utah, and that's Provo Canyon. So Provo Canyon is so close to where you are. You're 20 minutes-ish to get to Provo Canyon, where you can float tube, you can fly fish down the lower Provo River. We actually did that the first year we lived here. My daughter wanted to go for her birthday, and so we took all the nephews and nieces and all the kids, and we went and float tube down the Provo River. So that was awesome. Took us about 3 hours to float tube down. Was really one of the best times that we had float like on the water that we've ever experienced. It was just really, really nice. The water was a little chilly, but not too cold to where you couldn't enjoy it, but that was super fun. Then you also have Deer Creek Reservoir, which is about 5 minutes further up the canyon, and that reservoir is my favorite reservoir. We've been there numerous times now, and we will take our canopy, go down by the water, and then paddleboard, kayak, and swim in the water, and just have a great time at the beach down there. And it's super, super fun. You get there early. It's like $20 to park, but it's well worth it, and it's super close. So that is pro number one, is just those locations of the Provo Canyon. That's right there for you to be able to enjoy. You're going to be able to hike there and do lots of other outdoor activities as well, other than they don't have a ski resort right in that canyon. So that's pro number one. Next up, this one could be a pro or a con, depending upon which way you lean politically. But Orem, Utah is typically ultra conservative, so that could be a bad thing for you. Could be a good thing for you. Just depends on what your views are. Utah County as a whole leans more Republican than, say, Salt Lake County does. And that's a lot to do, I think, with the fact that Provo, Utah is in Utah County, and Provo, Utah is 5 minutes away from Orem, which helps make Orem a little bit more conservative than it would be if Provo wasn't right next door. But that could be a good thing or a bad thing for you. It just depends on what your views are. Pro number two is that the Utah Valley University is in Orem, Utah. That's where my daughter Megan went to school. She went to cooking school there for the last 2 years and really enjoyed it. Thought it was a really good campus, spent lots of time there. It is one of the largest and fastest growing universities in Utah. There's something like 34,000 undergraduates that currently go there. They also have, like I mentioned, a great cooking school that Megan went to. And BYU is right next door. So if you were going to BYU or your kids were going to go to BYU, then they could either stay with you or they'd be super close to come home. But that is pro number two, the colleges that are right there. Con number three, and this is something I've been told by a lot of people, is just there's so many apartments in Orem, Utah, and they aren't a big fan of the amount of apartments that are there. But because it's a college town, with UVU being there and BYU being so close, there's just going to be a ton of apartments that are going to be there because they're necessary for, the students going to college. And When we were looking for Megan to get in a place in Orem, she went and looked at quite a few. It was something like they would advertise it to be about $1,300 a month, and we'd think, oh, awesome, it's only $1,300, that's doable. Well, then when we get in and find out all the fees and everything else that it would be for, your technology fee and your parking and everything else, it would sometimes be in the $1,700 a month range, and that was just not in her budget for going to school. So she ended up staying with us. However, one of the places we did look at had underground parking, which was super cool, so that you could keep your car out of the elements from being in the sun and in the snow. And that was super neat. And then that place had covered parking, outdoor parking, and then the underground parking. And you could pay the different rates for each one. It was a different monthly fee. I think it was like $50 a month to have the underground parking and $25 for above ground, and either it was free or $10 for the non-covered parking. But just know, if you're going to be doing anything to do with apartments, you should be looking at that. And then the rates that they typically advertise is not all in. It should be that way, but I think they do that just to draw you in. So that's con number 3, the amount of apartments that you're going to run into in Orem. Pro number 3 is location of Orem. So let's check out what that actually looks like on the map. So you can see here in red, this is Orem, Utah. It's got Vineyard to the west, Linden to the north, Provo to the south, and mountains to the east. And you can see where Salt Lake City is way up at the top. Let me zoom out. So you can see Salt Lake City is up this way, north of you, and then Provo is right next door to you. And then just further down the road, then you got Cedar City, St. George, and then Las Vegas. We have your 5 minutes from Provo, your 24 minutes to Deer Creek Reservoir, which is my favorite reservoir, of course, and I talk about that often, but until you go there, hopefully you would agree that it's one of the best ones to go to. Your 40 minutes up to Salt Lake City, your 45 minutes to the Salt Lake City airport. Provo does have a small little 4-gate airport that is flying to certain places, so that is an option as well. Your 50 minutes to go to Park City, 55 minutes to go to Alta or Snowbird. You're an hour to get to Solitude and Brighton. You're 2 hours and 20 minutes to get to Windover, Nevada, which would be your closest place to go to gamble. And then you're 5.5 hours to Las Vegas, which is where you go for the next largest big city that has everything that you're looking for. Then you have 7.5 hours to get to Denver, Colorado, 9 hours to 15 hours to get to Los Angeles. That just depends on traffic. I think it took us 11 hours to get to Anaheim, California when we drove last. 9.5 hours to get to Phoenix, Arizona. I haven't done that drive yet, but I want to go visit my sister in Arizona, and that would be somewhere around a 10-hour drive where she's at. So that's kind of the location. It's a great spot. I really like where Orem is if you want to live in Utah County and take advantage of the things in Utah County. It's a great city. It's I don't know, it has a good vibe when I've been down there. So I like that sort of feel that it has. And so that's pro number 3, the location. If you're still with me, could you please click the like button? Really appreciate it. This shows me that you actually are finding value in my video. And then it also lets more people know about my video when you click the like button. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much. Con number 4 is public transportation. And Orem has a little bit of public transportation. It does not have some of the public transportation that cities that cities in Salt Lake County have when they have the track system. So you do have the front runner train and buses to get around, but you don't have the track system, which is amazing, that you can use up in Salt Lake County. So that would be a con just because it's not as good. And Provo and Draper both have much better public transportations if you are interested in those cities. Pro number 4 of living in Orem, Utah is the mountains and the views of the mountains, and also the view and usage of Utah Lake. So Utah Lake is right there. You pretty much border it. Vineyard is right there. That blocks you from getting to it, but it is right there. So if you wanted to go boat and water ski and fish and everything else that you can do on Utah Lake, it is there for you to use. And then the views of the mountains are amazing. They have my favorite mountain range is right there that you're going to be able to see. It's super cool to look at. So hopefully you'll take that is something that's drawing you to Orem, is just the views that you get there and how beautiful it is to see everything. Con number 5 is the traffic in Orem, and traffic can be really bad at certain times of the week. There's lots of traffic, lots of people moving in and around, people going to school, traveling in and around. And so traffic is one of the things that's one of my least favorite things about living there, would be just the amount of people and stuff like that. However, Sundays are a great day to drive around. There really isn't any traffic, and it would be nice. And I'm sure that if you actually grew up in Orem, that's Sunday traffic is what you were used to over the years until it just exploded in size and the amount of people that move there and go to school there and everything else. But so that's con number 5. Pro number 5 is something cool about it, and that's the parks that are in Orem. There's 20 plus parks for you to enjoy. They have a really cool public library that I would suggest you check out if you're into that at all. It's on our list to go check that one out based on what some people said, that it's better than some of the ones that we've been to. Hopefully you really like going to parks or enjoying them or just want to see them, but having 20 at your disposal makes it really nice. And there are a bunch of different things that you can do with them. And I just recommend that you do a little research on the parks and check out what you can find and what you can do with them. Con number 6 is the alcohol rules and laws. And while this isn't super specific to Orem, it is specific to Utah in general. And Utah has some of the strictest laws, or the strictest laws in the entire nation for alcohol. You can't buy anything on Sunday. You have to buy any of the good type of alcohol at the state-run liquor stores. So they have a markup on that, and 0.05% for the DUI law, which I don't see that as a negative, but it does make it tough for you to have any sort of alcohol and then drive. You also can't buy alcohol on holidays because the state-run liquor stores are closed, so you have to plan accordingly. And if you're into football, that means that you got to make sure that you have it ready on hand for Sunday, because if you forget, you aren't buying any. You can buy beer and some of the seltzer type drinks at the grocery store and at gas stations, so that's cool. And so that's con number 6, the alcohol rules that we have here. Also, you should note that if you are eating in the bar area, then they can't mix drinks in front of you. So that will be a little bit differently if they allow children in the bars and that sort of thing. So you're going to notice that change if you're coming from somewhere where you're used to seeing them mix drinks. Say you're at like Chili's and you decide to eat in the bar because the restaurant side is fuller or whatever. They don't mix drinks at the bar, even though they have the bar with the bar table and all that. They make them around the corner because you're only allowed to do that within a certain amount of feet from the public. And so that's kind of a con, I guess, because it just feels weird. And hopefully at some point they will change that here. But so that's kind of con number 6, is the alcohol laws and rules that you're going to have that maybe you wouldn't have wherever you're coming from. Pro number 6 is the friendly people. And so Orem has some of the friendliest people you're going to run into. And this has a lot to do with it being where it's located and that the fact that it's so close to Provo, but you're going to find a little bit of clickiness. So hopefully you can adjust to that. And I recommend that people that are thinking of moving to Orem, they spend a little time there and walk around and like do a little shopping and talk to people. But you're going to find that people are really, really nice and friendly and caring. Really, all of Utah. And hopefully, if you're moving here, that you actually, keep that going and you become more friendly maybe than you were in your previous state. Pro number 7 is Orem's full of shops and restaurants. They have a mall there called the University Place that you can go to and shop at. So you aren't going to have a problem finding places to eat or places to shop in Orem. And then once again, you have Provo that's 5 minutes away that's going to have even more shopping, more restaurants. Provo is the only place that has an L&L Hawaiian barbecue, which is my favorite barbecue place. So I have to go down to Provo to get it every so often when I want to get it. Otherwise, I get it at Mobetta's, which is pretty decent, but not as good as L&L. But that's pro number 7, shopping, restaurants. You're going to have plenty of options to choose from. Pro number 8 and con number 8 are all in the same, and that are the rankings and schools in Orem, Utah. So I'm going to pop over to niche.com now and just give you their rankings and ratings for Orem. All right, so here we are on niche.com for Orem, Utah. As you can see, They give it an A- overall, which is awesome. They also say it's the number 5 best place to live in Utah County, even better. B plus for schools, C plus for crime and safety, B minus for housing, B plus for nightlife, A minus good for families, A minus for diversity, A minus for jobs, B plus for weather, C for cost of living, A for health and fitness, A for outdoors, and A minus for commute. So their overall rankings are really, really strong for a city this size with, a population of 96 plus thousand people. Makes these rankings even more incredible. So their other ratings to make note of is the best suburb for young professionals. It's ranked number 9 out of 73 in the state of Utah, number 10 out of 73 for the most diverse suburb in Utah, and then the best suburb to live in Utah is ranked 15th out of 73. So all in all, it has really good rankings. And then schools, and then for schools, it has really good ratings here. You can see most of them are A pluses and A's. So they have good schools according to niche.com as well. So overall, those are the rankings, and you can see that it's rated really good, and it's a great place to live. If you're thinking about making that move to Orem, Utah, please reach out, give me a call, send me a text, shoot me an email. I'd love to talk to you more about your journey here to the Orem, Utah, or anywhere in the Salt Lake City area. And until next time, be rad.